Good afternoon, strong and fit moms. How are we doing today? Coming to you in the raw. This is what it looks like post jujitsu training. Am I right? Like when you train, you should never look the same going into training as you do at the end of training. If you do, you're doing something wrong. Just saying. So, as you are jumping on, say hello. Let me know if you can hear me okay. I've been having issues with my headset, with my computer, because my computer does not like me these days, but it's cool. We'll get through it. So as you jump on, say hello. Let me know where you're tuning in from. How is your day going? It's hump day. I don't know about you all, but we have high clouds and about 95 degrees. And we have no ocean here, by the way, right in Colorado. So I am slightly missing California with the oceans nearby. But I'm loving that we have lakes at least, right? And we have pools and we have bathtubs. So amen. So if you're catching this replay, please put hashtag replay, and I'd love to know what your biggest takeaway is from this. So if you're watching that replay, let me know, tag me. I would love to hear from you. And if you have questions throughout this training, please drop them in the comment below, and I'll be sure to get back to you on that if it is not happening here in live time. So as we get started, we are talking about intermittent fasting and calorie deficit, two different types of strategies that are used in this weight loss industry, okay? Two type of techniques or methods, strategies, whatever you like to coin them as, but are used in, again, dropping body fat, but there also can be used, again, in when you're wanting to gain lean muscle, but drop body fat. So we're gonna stick more on the weight loss area, because I know a lot of you in here are wanting to get to a healthier, stronger, more fit and lean physique and body. So weight loss is a big thing. It's a word we hear all the time. Now, for myself and what I want to impress upon you is that weight loss is a byproduct of becoming healthier. It should not be your main focus, because if that is all you are focusing on, you are losing out on all the benefits that come from becoming healthier. It really starts as an inside job, okay, with our thoughts, our beliefs, and our actions. So as we dive deep in this, again, we're going to go over what intermittent fasting is, or IF, and calorie deficit. So if you've heard of both of these terms, drop down below, give me a hand raise, let me know. So as we dive into this training, I would love to hear, where you're all tuned in from. If you're watching that replay, drop hashtag replay for me. And let me know in the comments, if you've heard of, or if have you tried either of these techniques, the weight loss, the calorie deficit, or the IF. So we're first going to focus in on IF, or intermittent fasting, and the pros, the cons, who's it for, who should try, who shouldn't try. Okay, so let's dive a little bit deeper in here. So this will allow you to be able to get a clear picture of the pros and cons of each, and you can make a decision. So we'll have a comparison at the end that you'll be able to see intermittent fasting versus calorie deficit, and you can choose if you want to try one or both of these to see what works best for you, your body, and your lifestyle. So again, we want to make sure that you are choosing something that you can stick with, because that is what's going to bring about, you're going to get consistency and you'll get consistent results. So stay to the end, because we will have an action plan that you can start implementing either of these weight loss techniques into your lifestyle. So without further ado, let's dive in to IF. So what is it? How does it work? Who should do it? Pros, cons. So intermittent fasting means to literally have intervals of eating and not eating. Okay, so there's several different types of IF, and we won't go into depth on each, but I do want to give you an overview and a background. So now fasting dates all the way back to biblical times. People would fast days and weeks at a time, when in prayer, right, as a way to be able to get nearer to the Lord. And still today, this is a practice to help with mental and spiritual clarity. And why is that? Well, taking away food, which your body needs to survive, and trusting and seeking the true provider, God. So fasting really does have that biblical backing, and where it really first started from. It wasn't used as a weight loss technique. Modern day society has turned it into that because they've seen the benefits. So fasting really does have a deeper meaning than just trying to lose weight. When you are, again, only feeding your body during certain time frames, your body becomes reliant on that, right? So when you're not eating outside those windows, you become reliant, right? You might feel hungry, or your body's adjusting. So you really it's really a mental and a spiritual game is what it comes down to, until your body adjusts. So In today's society and culture, it's now used as a weight loss tool, but that doesn't mean all the meaning and power of fasting should be lost by any means. So there are 3 different types of intermittent fasting. So the first one is a 24-hour fast. So this is where you would eat normally 6 days of the week. Then on the 7th day, you would not eat any food at all. You would strictly do water. So with the goal behind this being that the amount of calories that you would eat in that one day, right, there's your calorie deficit over that week. Now, if you remember from prior trainings, it takes 3,500 calories to gain or lose a pound. So again, if you're eating normally and say, again, you're exercising, which you should be doing, right? Yes. So you are probably going to have a slight calorie deficit if you're not eating above your maintenance calories during those 6 days. And then on the 7th day, when you have a complete 24-hour fast, you are again having that one full day of being in a full calorie deficit, hence bringing about that weight loss, or what we want to see is fat loss, because weight loss could also be lean muscle tissue. Okay, that's a topic for another day. So the second type of intermittent fasting is the most popular or common, is the 16-8. You have an 8-hour eating window and a 16-hour fasting where you're not eating. You're drinking water, right? No liquids that have any calories. Okay, so you have the 8-hour eating window, then you have your normal calorie intake for maintenance. You're not in necessarily a calorie deficit, right? Because the goal is, again, those 16 hours, your body is going to be utilizing the stored fat, or i.e. energy, because again, it's not fat as in macronutrient fat, it's body fat that's from excess glucose or glycogen. So your body's going to utilize that as your energy source and burn it off, right? Hence you dropping fat. So that's where the 16-8 comes from. So you have an 8-hour eating window, 16 hours you don't fast, you give your body a rest, and then that brings about that body fat reduction. And then number 3 type of intermittent fasting is a 5-2. 5 days you're eating normally, and day 6 and 7, you're only eating about 500 calories on each of those days. It's very minimal. So again, eating only 500 calories a day, bring you into that deficit to get you, consistent weight loss. So the purpose of fasting is to tap into your body's excess fat storages, right? So when we are eating, which we mentioned last week on our talking a little bit more about sugar and the effects of sugar in our body, when we are taking in more sugar-laden, artificial sweeteners, processed foods, we're spiking our insulin levels often. And when we spike those insulin levels, that fight or flight mode happens and our body stores excess fat because, again, it's in survival mode. So it's storing it. So if you find, ladies, that you're getting more belly fat in your hips, in that area, that could also, you definitely want to look at the types of food you're intaking. Deep fried foods, again, these stuff is going to spike our blood sugar levels. So if you're having them on the regular, then it is not going to help you. So even during fasting time, should you be eating sugar-laden foods, processed food, fried foods, heavy on the alcohol? No. Okay, which we'll talk a little more in depth when we go over calorie deficit. But all food is not created equal. They all have a macronutrient category, but that does not mean all food is created equal by any means. That's where your micronutrients come in. So with this 5-2, again, you were eating 5 days normal, your maintenance calories. Day 6 and 7, you're eating about 500 calories of really nutrient-dense foods. Because again, you're giving your body substance. You're not completely fasting like the 24-hour fast. You got to make sure that food counts, or else you're going to be miserable. Okay. So again, you're going to be testing these if you want to try these to see what works best for you. And I'll give you some game plan at the end here of how you can best do that to minimize the effects, okay, or the negative effects. So with the research and science that kind of indicates doing a 16-8 fast regularly can help reduce heart disease, diabetes, insulin resistance, metabolic reset, and so many more benefits. So there's scientific research, but there's not enough yet of the full benefits that you get, or the cons of doing intermittent fasting. So with any of the fasting techniques, it can help you regulate, again, your blood sugar, hence the insulin levels, reducing your hormones, balancing, and helping your body, because it's giving your body time to not work, right? We're giving it rest. Okay, rest is a huge part of recovery and having your body systems work at an optimal level. So intermittent fasting does have science and research backing those positives. So in relation to fat and weight loss, though, there is controversy around if IF, or intermittent fasting, is better than just a calorie deficit. So again, we'll go more into this in the end. So deciding which method to use is strictly a personal preference. It has to be able to fit into your lifestyle, or you won't be able to do it, right? If you can't be consistent, then you get a few days in and you're not doing it anymore, then again, you're not getting the full benefit of it. So when fasting, I have my clients try it out and go anywhere from 14 to 16 hours because it is very dependent on your individual body and what your body needs are. Okay, if you are miserable doing intermittent fasting, then don't do it. We're not here to punish our bodies. We're here to try to be the healthiest, strongest, most fit version of ourselves, right? That doesn't mean we're punishing ourselves. That's an oxymoron. Okay, we want to love our bodies and take care of this vessel and learn ways to do that work well for us. Okay, so with fasting, you can have issues with blood sugar. So this is not for people who are diabetic. Okay, because again, depending on how you're eating, some can do intermittent fasting, but again, you got to be very mindful of the foods that you are taking in. And again, having regular eating windows within your eating time frame. The 16-8 would probably be the most beneficial for those if you are pre-diabetic or diabetic. So again, consult with your health professional to make sure before you try, okay? So, or if you have thyroid issues that are not controlled. Again, the idea of fasting is it can help you control your blood sugar. So again, it can be beneficial for diabetics and those with thyroid issues. But again, you have to be careful how you start to implement this method into your life. Okay, so this type of weight loss tool is not for you if you can't be consistent in it, or if it just doesn't plain work with your lifestyle. If you try to force it, your success rate drops dramatically. Okay, so who is this for? So those that can be consistent with fasting are okay with having large windows of not eating, are able to get their calories in a smaller eating window. So pros, no calorie counting, flexible eating windows, more structured, right? And cons, you can have limits on like social activities. You can feel restricted. So if you only have a certain time you can eat, that could limit what you are doing outside of your home, right? Social engagements, movie nights, date nights. So again, this can have some social restrictions. So again, keeping that in mind. Now, in fasting, you also need to be aware of when you exercise, especially when you're doing higher intensity or heavier lifting, okay, with strength training. I don't recommend any of my clients or any of you to do this in a fasted state if you're doing high intensity or heavy lifting in a fasted state, as you often won't be getting the full benefit of your training sessions due to lack of energy, because you're not going to be able to lift as heavy or sustain it as long as if you had enough new energy, okay, that's sustaining you. So in fasting, doing cardio is typically fine. Just listen to your body, okay? So if you're running, jogging, rowing, jump roping, the basic cardio. I'm not talking about HIIT cardio, okay? I'm talking more about steady state cardio. You're typically fine. Just listen to your body, okay? So any questions on fasting, drop them in the comments for me, and then I can come back and answer them for you, okay? So now we're going to switch gears and we're going to go into calorie deficit, okay? So calorie deficit is, again, another way for your body to lose fat and weight. Okay, so calorie deficit just means that you're taking in less calories than your body needs every day. So doing this consistently each week will yield fat or weight loss. Okay, again, the whole goal is here to lose fat, not lean muscle. But again, most times when you are in a calorie deficit or you're on a weight loss journey, there will be some lean muscle tissue that will go if you're not eating properly or getting enough protein in. And again, you want to be lifting and doing strength training because, again, it takes more energy to contract muscle, okay? It takes more energy. Therefore, you're going to increase your metabolic rate. You're going to increase the energy expenditure. You're going to burn more calories. You'll have a bigger deficit, which means you don't have to lessen your food as much. And for me, who's a foodie, that is awesome for me. I'd rather move my body more so I can eat more. So that's kind of like where I'm at. So now calorie it means, again, your body's taking in less. So you've probably heard calories in, calories out, right? Most of us heard that. Calories in, calories out equals weight loss. So from experience and research and science, not all food is created equal. If you go to Jack in the Box or McDonald's and eat there 3 times a day for 7 days, and yet it's still in your calorie range, you're not going to be losing weight, right? The quality of the food is going to be different than if you go and make yourself hamburger at home with your seasonings and not a pound of butter, right? So, chips, packaged foods, canned veggies and fruits, even if I was at a calorie deficit, the amount of preservatives, the chemicals, and the lack of nutrition or nutrients in the food would end up affecting my body in weight loss and fat loss. and fat loss may not occur, or if it is, it's going to be very minimal, and other health concerns would come into play, right? So we have our macronutrients, our fat, carbs, and proteins. Those are your three macronutrients. Within those categories, there is micronutrients, the vitamins, minerals that our bodies need in order to run optimally. So if we're taking in less nutrient dense carbs, fats, and proteins on a regular basis in our daily intake, then it's going to be a lot longer before we're able to actually feel, look, and be healthier. Okay, so your calories do matter. The types of food you put in your body matter. The more whole food, nutrient dense choices you make, the healthier and leaner you will be. Okay, so think about it. If you get a bag of chips, how easy is it to eat the whole bag of chips versus you getting a tub of strawberries and polishing off the whole thing of strawberries? Your full cue is going to trigger so much quicker with those strawberries than it is with the chips, especially if you are having these foods on a regular basis, because again, it's that addiction to those foods, because our good old manufacturers and our scientists who create these foods for these brands, they make it as addictive as possible. So you're not getting that cue that you're full and you're going through it unless you have that awareness and again, give yourself a limit. So our body has to fight hard when processing foods that are processed, right? Or sugar-laden foods, not to mention blood sugar spikes, insulin spikes, which all lead to what? Fat storage, right? So we go over this topic of sugar in the body in depth in the 4-week sugar detox and reset program. So if that's something you feel like you need, you feel like you're getting too much of the processed foods or the refined sugar, it's got a hold on you, comment below 4 weeks. I'll be in touch because we will be launching that program again. But now, if you're taking in quality foods and eating at your maintenance calories, then you add in exercise 3 to 4 times a week, you will end up having a calorie deficit. Now, if you eat slightly under your maintenance calories, about 200 to 300 calories a day, and are active each day and burn about 200 to 300 calories in movement and exercise, you'll have a 500 to 600 calorie deficit each day. Do this for 7 days. In theory, you lose 1 pound, right? It takes 3,500 calories to gain or lose a pound. Now, fat and muscle weigh the same, but muscle is more dense and takes up more space, so it may appear heavier on the scale, right? So this is why we don't use a scale as the telltale sign of progress and success. It's just another tool we use just as a gauge, and that is it. So when you're doing a calorie deficit, again, being in between a 200 to 300 calorie deficit all up to about a 500 calorie deficit a day, and that can be broken up between food and exercise or one or the other. Okay, depends on what works best for you. So again, depending on what you're doing, the type of exercise you're doing may yield a higher return on that investment of dropping those calories. So the more you strength train and make sure you're working those big, large muscle groups, your back, your chest, your glutes, your hamstrings, quads, those are your large muscle groups, at least 1 to 2 times a week is going to help you burn more calories because they are larger muscle groups and takes more energy. Not to mention, you're going to help with your bone mineral density, you're going to help with your physique, you're going to have body composition change. So I can go about all that all day long, but let's focus again. Let me bring myself back to calorie deficit. So when you're working to lose weight, right, taking measurements each week will be a better indicator than the scale, right? Plus, you're going to be seeing your sleep improve, your energy levels, and the way your clothes fit. So again, whether you're doing intermittent fasting or calorie deficit, pay attention to if the areas of your sleep, of your energy levels, of how your clothes fit are getting worse or better, okay? So we don't continue with something on and on if it is not helping us. We wanna make sure we stop, we reassess, and we switch gears, okay? So the more lean muscle tissue you have, the higher metabolism will be, which means you burn more calories at rest than you would if you did cardio all the time. Cardio is not your answer to fat loss, ladies. It is not. You can do a 30-minute strength training session and burn twice as many calories as you would if you did an hour of steady state cardio, okay? So weight training changes the shape and look of your body, like I mentioned. Plus it gives you strength. It slows down. It can even reverse osteopenia, osteoporosis damage, and increases bone mineral density and so much more. So for calorie deficit, eating approximately 500 calories under your maintenance or a combination of calorie and exercise to get you about 500 calorie deficit a day over those 7 days each week, you should be dropping about a pound a week. Now, again, depending on how the types of food you're eating, you could be dropping more because your body may be letting go of inflammation and water retention, okay? Or if you're on the other end and you're still having sugar laden or processed foods, you might see a smaller weight loss, okay? So if you are strictly doing just calories and not strength training, you run the risk of losing your lean muscle tissue. So really be careful that you are doing some strength training because again, we lose our lean muscle tissue, our metabolism goes down. We want it to go up, right? We want it to be a furnace burning all the time and helping us feel amazing, okay? So pros of calorie deficit. So flexible eating still, you have no restrictions on time, and it breeds intentionality and awareness, okay? Now cons, you are tracking your food and movement, especially in the beginning, so you have a handle on it. You have limited social activities, right? You're in a calorie deficit, you're trying to get your movement in, and staying in a calorie deficit for too long can cause weight loss plateaus. So with a calorie deficit, you don't always want to be eating less than what your body needs. So there is times to take and break. So it's called a metabolic reset. So there is times to do that and get out of the deficit and go back to a maintenance for a certain period of time with the goal of not gaining weight, but maintaining, giving your body time to adjust, and then again going back to a deficit again. So now you have knowledge on both weight loss techniques. You can decide which is best for you. Now at the beginning of training, I told you I would have a game plan for each method, so you can start implementing. So we're going to talk about IF first, or intermittent fasting. So if you're going to choose that route, choose which 3 types of intermittent fasting you want to try. So which of the 3 would you like to try first? I would encourage you to try to do this for 1 week. Okay, so start off slow. Each day you're going to increase your fasting window by 1 hour. If that's too much, just increase it by 30 minutes. So if you were normally eating on a normal basis before fasting from 8 to 8, you're going to try to go from 8:30 to 7:30. Okay, that's an hour, half hour on each end. You're going to keep shortening that window until you get down, if you're doing that 16:8, until you get down to the 16:8. Now, that is for the 16:8 window only. Now, if you're doing the 24-hour fast or the 5-2 fast, have plenty of liquids on hand, fresh, that's a hard one, fresh pressed juice or broth. If you end up having any solids that are blended down, that doesn't count. That will reset your metabolism and fire up your digestive system, which means you're no longer fasting. So no smoothies. It has to be fresh pressed juice. There's no pulp. There's nothing in there except the liquid. Because again, you do not want to restart your digestive system because that means there is no fast. So have grace for yourself. Once you get your desired fasting window, try 3 days and then break the fast and go back to normal eating times. The following week, try it for 4 days and see how you feel, okay? Because it's about you as an individual. So again, you can keep increasing that to where if you want to be doing this 7 days a week, you can. But again, sometimes doing a 3-day fast, breaking it for 2 days, a 3-day fast, break it for 2 days, okay? So you can play around with this, but having at least 3 solid days a week of you doing the intermittent fasting, if you're doing the 16-8, is very powerful alone. Now again, as you do this, you might find that 16 is too long, but you really thrive at the 14 or 15 hour mark. That is fine, okay? You stay there, you're getting results, use it, okay? Now, listen to your body. If you are starving, break the fast. When you eat before and after your fast, it makes a huge difference, so be sure that your meals are balanced in your macronutrients and are nutrient dense, so you get the micronutrients as well. This is really going to help you coming out of the fast, right? So, and through the fast. So now for calorie deficit game plan. So decide how you will track your food, either by calories or macros. Then you can choose to use a tracker, calorie tracker or a macro tracker to implement all your food, or like a food journal. Then you're going to want to meal prep and plan. Okay, pick nutrient-dense foods that will help keep you full. Move your body more than you sit. And choose meals that are simple and easy